There's a topic that shows up in whispers, in curiosity, and sometimes in confusion, but rarely in honest, open conversation. It's about a natural bodily response that some women experience during intimacy, and yet so many people don't understand what it really is, how it feels, or whether it even matters. Well, I'm Dr. Nerea Wolf, urologist and pelvic surgeon, and I'm here to help you navigate questions like these with clarity, compassion, and science. If you've ever wondered about your body, your health, or your experiences in intimate moments, please stay with us. We're here to offer you understanding without judgment and knowledge without fear. Today, we're going to talk about female ejaculation, what it is, what it isn't, and most importantly, what real women have shared about how it actually feels. Understanding the phenomenon. Let's start with what we're talking about. Female ejaculation, often referred to as squirting, is the release of fluid from the urethra during moments of sexual arousal or climax. It happens in some women, not in others, and that difference is completely normal. But here's what's important. This isn't something that's widely discussed in medical school curriculums, and it's certainly not something that shows up in everyday health conversations. What we do see is a lot of misinformation, shaped by media, influenced by adult entertainment, and clouded by myths. So let's bring some light to the subject. Let's talk about the anatomy, the science, and most importantly, the real human experiences behind this natural response. The anatomy behind it. To understand what's happening, we need to talk about the structures involved. The urethra is a narrow tube that carries urine from the bladder to the outside of the body. Surrounding and supporting the urethra are small glands called Skene's glands. These glands are fascinating because they're actually the female equivalent of the male prostate. They develop from the same embryonic tissue early in fetal development. During sexual arousal, these Skene's glands can fill with fluid. When a woman reaches orgasm, the pelvic floor muscles contract rhythmically, and those contractions can put pressure on the glands and the surrounding tissue. This pressure can cause the fluid to be released through the urethra. The fluid itself is typically clear or slightly cloudy. It can range from just a few drops to a more noticeable amount. And here's something interesting. When researchers have analyzed this fluid, they found it contains prostate-specific antigen, PSA, the same enzyme produced by the male prostate. This confirms that the fluid comes, at least in part, from the Skene's glands. Now, it's worth noting that female ejaculation and squirting are sometimes described as two different things. Ejaculation is thought to be a smaller release of milky fluid directly from the Skene's glands. Squirting, on the other hand, may involve a larger volume of fluid that includes some diluted urine along with glandular secretions. But here's the truth. We don't have a lot of robust research on this. What we do know comes from small studies, self-reports, and a handful of clinical observations. In fact, surveys suggest that up to 40% of women have experienced some form of ejaculation at least once, but many didn't realize what it was at the time. What women actually feel so, with all the mystery and all the media hype, what do women themselves say about this experience? A group of researchers in Sweden wanted to find out. They recruited 28 women who identified as experiencing ejaculation or squirting, and they interviewed them in depth about their feelings, perceptions, and lived experiences. What they discovered was both fascinating and deeply human. The responses didn't fit into one neat category. Instead, they found three main themes, and all of them were valid, all of them were real. Theme 1, amazement and empowerment. For some women, the experience felt like a revelation. They described it as a kind of sexual awakening, a moment when they discovered something new about their own bodies. Some had actively sought out this experience, reading books, attending workshops, or exploring with partners who were curious and supportive. These women often felt a sense of pride. They described it as feeling special, even powerful. One woman said it made her feel like she had unlocked a hidden ability. Another said it deepened her connection to her own pleasure and gave her a new confidence in intimate settings. It wasn't just about the physical sensation. It was about what it represented. A sense of exploration, a sense of ownership over their bodies, a feeling that they were in tune with themselves in a way they hadn't been before. Theme 2, indifference or disconnection. But not everyone felt that way. For other women, the experience was far more subdued. Some described it as overrated. They said they didn't even notice it was happening until they saw the sheets afterward. For them, it wasn't tied to orgasm, and it didn't add anything significant to their pleasure. Some women felt disconnected from the act itself. They wondered why so much attention was being placed on something that, for them, felt incidental. They didn't associate it with heightened pleasure, and they certainly didn't feel like it made their sexual experiences better or more meaningful. This perspective is just as valid. Not every bodily response needs to be celebrated or sought after. For some, it simply is. Neither good nor bad, just part of what happens. Theme 3: discomfort and shame. And then there were the women who felt embarrassed or confused. Some didn't know what was happening the first time it occurred. They thought they had lost control of their bladder. They felt ashamed, worried that their partner would be disgusted, or concerned that something was wrong with them. Others found it messy or inconvenient. They didn't enjoy the sensation, and they wished it didn't happen. For these women, the experience wasn't empowering or neutral. It was a source of anxiety. What made this worse was the lack of information. Because this topic isn't widely discussed in health education, many women didn't have the language or the knowledge to understand what they were experiencing. They were left to piece it together on their own, often feeling isolated or ashamed in the process. What shaped these feelings? Here's what the researchers found. The way women felt about ejaculation wasn't just about the physical experience. It was shaped by their partners, their culture, their upbringing, and the messages they'd received about sex in their bodies. Women who had supportive, curious partners were more likely to view the experience positively. Women who felt judged or misunderstood were more likely to feel shame. And women who had grown up in environments where sex wasn't talked about openly were more likely to feel confused or embarrassed. In other words, the meaning we attach to our bodies is deeply personal and deeply influenced by the world around us. The bottom line. So, does it matter whether a woman experiences ejaculation or not? No, it doesn't. It's not a marker of sexual maturity. It's not a sign of better intimacy. It's not something that needs to be achieved or avoided. It's simply a natural variation in how bodies respond during arousal and climax. Some women experience it, others don't. Some feel amazing when it happens, others feel indifferent, and some feel uncomfortable. All of these responses are valid. What matters is how you feel about your own body and your own experiences. What matters is that you have access to accurate information, free from judgment or pressure. And what matters is that you know you're not alone, whatever your experience may be. If you've ever felt confused, curious, or concerned about something happening in your body, I want you to know this. Your questions are welcome here. Your experiences are valid, and you deserve clear, compassionate answers. Take care of yourself, not because you have to perform or meet some standard, but because you deserve to understand and honor your own body. Thank you for being here. If this resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And as always, take care of yourself because you're worth it.